There's a man standing outside my bedroom door right now. I can hear him breathing. It's 3:47 in the morning, and I'm sitting with my back pressed against the door, phone in one hand, kitchen knife in the other, listening to him pace back and forth in the hallway. He's been out there for 23 minutes. I've been counting. The floorboards creak every time he takes a step. Slow, deliberate, like he's got all the time in the world. He knocked 15 minutes ago, 3 times, soft, almost polite, and then he said my name. Tom. Just that, nothing else. But here's the thing, I live alone. I've lived alone for 3 months, and the voice on the other side of that door, it sounded exactly like mine. I need to tell you how I got here. I need to tell you about the flat, about the rules, about what I found in the attic 4 weeks ago when I broke Rule 3. Because if I don't make it through tonight, if he gets in, someone needs to know what happened at 43 Cowgate. Someone needs to know about Michael Carrick, and why, after 40 years, he's finally trying to leave. It all started 2 months ago, in August, when I answered an ad for a flat I should never have taken. I moved to Edinburgh at the end of summer with £1,200 in my bank account, a job offer from a tech startup near Waverley Station, and absolutely nowhere to live. I'd spent 3 days in a hostel on the Royal Mile, scrolling through Gumtree and Rightmove, watching flats disappear within hours of being posted. Everything was either too expensive or already gone. The rental market in Edinburgh is brutal. Students, tourists, professionals, all fighting over the same handful of overpriced flats. By the 4th day, I was starting to panic. And then I saw it. Posted 7 minutes ago. No photo, no description, just a single line of text and a phone number. 1-bed flat, Old Town, £475 a month, available immediately, contact Mr. Carrick. I stared at it for a long moment, convinced it had to be a mistake. £475 a month in Edinburgh city centre. The average rent for a 1-bedroom in Old Town was pushing £900. Some places went for over £1,200. This had to be a scam, or a typo, or someone's idea of a joke. But I called anyway, because I was desperate and I didn't have any other option. The phone rang twice before someone picked up. Yes? The voice was quiet, strained, like the person on the other end hadn't spoken to anyone in days. Hi, I'm calling about the flat listing on Gumtree. Is it still available? There was a pause, long enough that I thought maybe the line had dropped. Then, it's available. You can view it tomorrow, 6 o'clock, 43 Cowgate, top floor. Don't be late. Can I ask why the rent's so... Don't be late, he said again, and hung up. I sat there in the hostel common room, staring at my phone, with this weird knot forming in my stomach. Something about the way he said, "Don't be late," didn't sit right. It wasn't rude, it wasn't dismissive, it was urgent. Like he needed me to see the flat, like he needed someone to take it. I told myself I was overthinking it, that I was just anxious about money and the move and starting a new job. But looking back now, I think some part of me already knew. Some part of me felt it. The next evening, I took the bus from Leith down into Old Town just before 6. If you've never been to Edinburgh, you need to understand something about the layout of the city. The Royal Mile runs along the top of the ridge, all tourist shops and bagpipe buskers and people taking photos of the castle. But 1 level down, running parallel beneath it, is Cowgate, a narrow cobble street that winds through the oldest part of the city like a scar. During the day, it's dark even when it's sunny. The tall stone tenements on either side leaning in so close they almost touch, blocking out the sky. At night, it's even darker still. The kind of darkness that feels heavy, old. Number 43 was halfway down the street, tucked between a closed pub and a solicitor's office. It was a Georgian tenement, 4 stories, blackened sandstone, the kind that had been stained by 2 centuries of coal smoke and rain. The windows were small and grimy. The front door was painted dark green and looked like it hadn't been replaced since the building was built. Standing in front of that door, waiting for me, was an old man in a long wool coat. "Mr. Carrick?" He nodded but didn't look at me, just pulled a set of keys from his coat pocket and unlocked the door. "You're Tom?" "Yeah, Tom Fielding." He pushed the door open and stepped inside without another word, and I followed him into the close. The close, the entrance hallway, was narrow and dark, the walls painted that institutional green you only see in old hospitals and government buildings. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, flickering slightly, casting shadows that seemed to move on their own. The smell hit me immediately: damp stone, old wood, cigarette smoke that had seeped into the walls decades ago and just never left. We started climbing the stairs in silence. 4 flights, narrow stone steps worn smooth in the middle from 100 years of feet. No carpet, no handrail on one side. The walls were bare except for patches of peeling paint and the occasional water stain. By the time we reached the top floor, I was slightly out of breath. Mr. Carrick wasn't. He moved slowly, but steadily, like he climbed those stairs 1,000 times and his body knew the way even if his mind didn't. He stopped in front of the door on the left side of the landing. The number plate was tarnished brass, scratched and dented. 43B. He unlocked it with a key that looked older than I was, then stepped aside and gestured for me to go in first. "After you," he said quietly. The hallway was narrow, maybe 3 feet wide. The walls were papered in a faded floral pattern, roses, I think, though it was hard to tell under the layers of age and nicotine stains. The carpet was brown, worn thin in the middle. A single bare bulb hung from the ceiling. To my left, a doorway led into the living room. To my right, the bathroom. Straight ahead, at the end of the hall, the bedroom. I stepped inside. The living room was small but not tiny. A bay window looked out over the rooftops towards the castle, which I could just make out in the distance through the grimy glass. The wallpaper was the same faded floor as the hallway. A carpet matched. There was no furniture. "Is it furnished?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "No," Mr. Carrick said from the doorway. He hadn't come inside, just stood there, watching me. "But the rent reflects that." Fair enough. The kitchen was barely a kitchen, more like a gallery carved into one wall of the living room. A 2-ring electric hob, a small under-the-counter fridge that hummed loudly, a stainless steel sink with dripping tap, a kettle that looked like it was from the 1980s. The bathroom was next, avocado green suite. Cracked tiles, a pull cord light that made a loud, sharp click when I tested it. The kind of click that echoes, and at the end of the hall, the bedroom. It was small, maybe 10 feet by 12. A single metal bed frame sat against one wall, no mattress. A wooden wardrobe stood in the corner, door slightly ajar. The window looked out onto a back courtyard, 4 stories down, where someone had left the rusted bike chain to the drain pipe. The walls were bare, the carpet was the same brown as the hallway. It wasn't much, but it was clean, and it was cheap, and most importantly, it was available. "I'll take it," I said, turning back to Mr. Carrick. He didn't react, didn't smile, didn't say congratulations or welcome aboard or any of the things you'd expect a landlord to say when someone agrees to rent their property. He just reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a brown envelope and held it out to me. "Tenancy agreement. First month's rent in cash. Sign and date the last page. No deposit required." I blinked. "No deposit?" He shook his head. Why not? For the first time since I met him, Mr. Carrick looked directly at me, really looked at me. His eyes were pale, watery, and there was something in them that I just couldn't place. Not sadness exactly, not fear, guilt. Because people don't stay long enough to ask for it back, he said quietly. I laughed, nervous, trying to break the tension. That's a bit ominous. He didn't laugh back, didn't even crack a smile. He just pulled a key ring from his upper pocket, 2 keys, one silver, one brass, and pressed them into my hand. Main door, flat door, he said. There's a list inside, on the bedroom door. Read it, follow it, don't ignore it. A list? Rules, he said, for the flat. I frowned. What kind of rules? Mr. Carrick turned towards the door, stopped, didn't look back. The kind to keep you alive, he said, and then he left. I moved in 2 days later, on a Saturday morning. It didn't take long. I didn't own much. 2 suitcases of clothes, a backpack with my laptop and chargers, a duffel bag full of books, and a sleeping bag I borrowed from a mate because I couldn't afford a mattress yet. The flat looked exactly the same as it had during the viewing. Empty, cold, the smell of damp and old cigarettes still lingering in the air. I spent the first few hours trying to make it feel like mine. I hung my clothes in the wardrobe, set up my laptop on the floor by the living room window, rolled out my sleeping bag on the bare bed frame in the bedroom. And that's when I saw it. Taped to the inside of the bedroom door, a piece of lined paper, A4, folded once, then taped flat against the wood with yellow sellotape that looked like it had been there for years. I peeled it off carefully, the tape crackling as it came away from the paint, and unfolded it. At the top, written in shaky blue biro, all capitals, Rules for 43B, Cowgate. And below that, 7 numbered points. The handwriting was uneven. Some words were underlined twice, others were circled. It looked like it had been written in a hurry by someone whose hands were shaking. I sat down on the edge of the bed frame and read it. The 7 rules. Rule 1. Do not open the living room window after 10 p.m. Rule 2. If you hear knocking on the front door after midnight, do not answer it. Do not look through the peephole. Do not ask who it is. Do not acknowledge it. Rule 3. Never go into the attic. The hatch is in the hallway ceiling. Leave it closed. Do not open it. Do not go up there. Rule 4. If the bathroom light flickers 3 times in a row, leave the room immediately. Do not return for 10 minutes. Do not look into the mirror. Rule 5. Do not leave food out overnight. Put everything away before you go to sleep. Everything. No exceptions. Rule 6. If you hear footsteps above you, ignore them. Do not investigate. Do not call out. There is no flat above yours. Rule 7. If you see a man standing in the corner of your bedroom at night, close your eyes immediately. Pretend to be asleep. Do not acknowledge him. Do not speak to him. He will leave. I read the list 3 times, then folded it, placed it on the windowsill, and sat there for a long moment, staring at it. Part of me wanted to laugh. It felt like something out of a creepypasta forum, a joke, some kind of weird prank by the previous tenant to freak out whoever moved in next. But another part of me, the part that had felt uneasy during the viewing, the part that had noticed the guilt in Mr. Carrick's eyes, that part wasn't laughing. I picked up the list again and looked at Rule 3. Never go into the attic. Do not open it. Do not go up there. 3 warnings, 3 separate emphases. Why? What was up there? I stood up and walked into the hallway and looked up at the ceiling, and there it was, just above the front door, a square panel, painted white, maybe 2 feet by 2 feet. No handle, no hinges visible from below, just a thin seam around the edges where it sat flush against the ceiling, the attic hatch. I stared at it for a long time, this weird pull in my chest, this need to know what was behind it. But I didn't open it. Not that day. Not yet. The first week in my flat was normal. I started my new job on Monday, software developer at a fintech startup. Boring work but good pay. I'd wake up at 7, shower, grab coffee from the cafe Nero on the corner, and walk the 15 minutes to the office near Waverley Station. I'll get home around 6, make dinner on the tiny hob, pasta, mostly, because I'm a terrible cook, and I'll watch something on the laptop, then roll out the sleeping bag and try to sleep on the metal bed frame, which was about as comfortable as it sounds. The flat was cold, the floorboards creaked, the pipes banged every time I ran the hot water, but it was fine, it was mine, and more importantly, it was cheap. And without really thinking about it, I followed the rules. I didn't open the living room window at night. It was September in Scotland, freezing, and the window was painted shut anyway. No one knocked on the door after midnight, so rule 2 didn't matter. I put my food away every night out of habit. Years of living with flatmates who'll steal your milk had trained me well. The bathroom light flickered occasionally, and never 3 times in a row, and I didn't hear footsteps above me. Not yet. But I kept thinking about rule 6. There is no flat above yours. One afternoon, during my lunch break, I pulled up Google Maps on my phone and I found the building. I zoomed in on the street view. 43 Cowgate. Tall, narrow, Georgian tenement. I counted the floors. Ground floor, first floor, second floor, third floor. I was on the 3rd floor. There was no 4th floor. So why did the rule mention footsteps above me? What was up there? I looked up at the ceiling of the living room, and for the first time, I noticed something strange. The ceiling was low, maybe 7 feet, which, for a Georgian building, was weird. They usually have high ceilings, 9, 10 feet, which meant there was space above me, a gap between my ceiling and the roof. I opened the Photos app on my phone and scrolled back to the pictures I'd taken of the list of rules. I found rule 3, never go into the attic. The attic, that's what was above me, and someone didn't want me going up there. The footsteps started on the 9th night. I remember the exact night because I'd just bought a cheap mattress from Gumtree, some guy in Leith selling it for £40, and I was lying on an actual bed for the first time in over a week, scrolling through Reddit on my phone, finally comfortable. And that's when I heard it. Creak. Slow, deliberate, directly above me. I froze. Another one. Closer. My eyes went to the ceiling. Footsteps. Someone was walking across the attic. Left to right. Slow. Measured. Like they were pacing. I sat up slowly, not making a sound, my heart starting to hammer in my chest. The footsteps continued, back and forth, and then they stopped. For a full minute, there was nothing, just silence, just me, sitting in the dark, staring at the ceiling, barely breathing. Just silence, just me, sitting in the dark, staring at the ceiling, barely breathing. And then it started again, faster this time, like someone running. I grabbed my phone, opened the Photos app with shaking hands, and pulled up the picture of the rules. Rule 6. If you hear footsteps above you, ignore them. There is no flat above yours. I looked back at the ceiling. The footsteps were directly overhead now, right above the bed. And then, slowly, they moved towards the door, towards the hallway, towards the attic. I didn't move. I sat there, frozen, listening as the footsteps stopped right above the hallway. And then, silence. Complete, total silence. I didn't sleep that night. The next night, the footsteps came back. Same time, just after 1 a.m. But this time, there was something else. A dragging sound. Scrape, drag, scrape, drag. Like something heavy being pulled across the floor. I was lying in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling, listening to it move from one side of the attic to the other. Scrape, drag, scrape, drag. Slow, methodical. It went on for maybe 5 minutes, and then it stopped. I grabbed my phone and opened the voice recorder app. I hit record, placed the phone on the pillow next to me and waited. For 30 seconds, there was nothing, and then it started again. I recorded for 2 minutes, then stopped. The next morning, I played it back. You could hear it, clear as day. Footsteps, dragging, something moving across the floor above me. But according to the building plans I'd found online, there was no floor above me, just the attic. I stood in the hallway and stared up at the hatch. My hands were shaking. I wanted to open it. I needed to know what was up there. But rule 3 was clear. Do not open it. So I didn't. Not yet. On the 15th night, I was brushing my teeth when the bathroom light flickered. Once, I paused, toothbrush still in my mouth, and looked up at the pull cord light. It flickered again, twice. I spat into the sink and rinsed my mouth, keeping my eyes on the light. It flickered a third time. Rule 4. If the bathroom light flickers 3 times in a row, leave the room immediately. Do not return for 10 minutes. Do not look into the mirror. I dropped my toothbrush in the sink, turned and walked out of the bathroom. I pulled the door shut behind me, stood in the hallway with my back against the wall, heart pounding, staring at the closed door. 10 minutes, I set a timer on my phone, watched the seconds tick down. At 7 minutes, I heard it, running water. The tap had turned on. I pressed my ear to the door. The water was running, full blast. I could hear it hitting the sink, splashing. But I hadn't left it on. I turned it off. I was sure of it. At 9 minutes, the water stopped. I stood there, frozen, listening. Silence. The timer on my phone went off. 10 minutes. I took a breath, opened the door, and I stepped inside. The tap was off, the sink was dry, but the mirror above the sink was completely fogged over with condensation, and written in that condensation, in shaky letters, were 2 words: stay out. That same night, at 12:47 a.m, someone knocked on my front door. I was lying in bed, wide awake, unable to stop thinking about the message on my mirror, when I heard it. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Every muscle in my body went rigid. Rule 2. If you hear knocking on your front door after midnight, do not answer it. Do not look through the peephole. Do not ask who it is. Do not acknowledge it. I lay there, perfectly still, barely breathing. The knocking came again, louder this time. I clenched my fist, digging my nails into my palms, fighting every instinct that told me to get up, to look, to see who was out there. The knocking stopped. For a long moment, there was nothing, just silence. And then I heard a voice, muffled, coming from the other side of the door. Tom. My blood turned to ice. It was my voice, not similar, not close, identical. Tom, it's me. I'm locked out. Can you let me in? I pulled the covers over my mouth to muffle my breathing. The voice came again. "Tom, please, it's cold out here. Just open the door." I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. I lay there in the dark, listening to my own voice beg to be let in. And I felt something I had never felt before. Not fear exactly. Wrongness. Deep, primal, the kind of wrongness that every animal instinct in your body recognizes. The knocking came one more time, and then silence. I stayed in bed until the sun came up, and when I finally opened the front door to leave for work that morning, I saw something that made my stomach drop. 4 long scratches in the wood, like someone, something, had dragged their nails down the door, trying to get in. On the 23rd night, I saw him. I woke up at 3:47 a.m. I don't know why. No sound, no nightmare. I just opened my eyes. There was a man standing in the corner of my bedroom. Tall, thin, wearing a long coat. His face was in a shadow, but I could see his outline against the wall, perfectly still, just standing there, watching me. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think, and then I remembered Rule 7. If you see a man standing in the corner of your bedroom at night, close your eyes immediately, pretend to be asleep, do not acknowledge him, he will leave. I closed my eyes, slowly, carefully, forced my breathing to steady, in through my nose, out through my mouth, pretended to be asleep. I counted in my head, 1, 2, 3. I could feel him looking at me. 10, 11, 12. The air in the room felt heavier, colder. 30, 40, 50. At 60 seconds, I opened my eyes, just a crack. He was gone. But on the bedside table, right next to my phone, where it definitely hadn't been before, was a piece of paper, folded once. I picked it up with shaking hands and unfolded it. Same handwriting as the original list. It said, "Rule 8. If you see him, he has already seen you. The only way to stop this is to understand why. Check the attic." The next night, I made my decision. I was going into the attic, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't have a choice anymore. Whatever was happening in this flat, whatever was up there, it wasn't going to stop, and if I didn't figure out why, I don't think I was going to survive. I waited until 2 a.m. The flat was silent. The footsteps hadn't started yet. I grabbed a chair from the kitchen, carried it into the hallway, and placed it directly under the attic hatch. My hands were shaking so badly I almost couldn't climb onto it. I stood on the chair, reached up, and pressed my fingers into the thin gap around the edge of the hatch, and I pushed. The hatch lifted with a soft, dry creak, and cold air rushed down over me like water. It smelled like dust and damp and something else, something organic, something that had been closed off and left to rot for a very long time. I pulled out my phone, turned on the torch, and shone it up into the darkness. The beam cut through the black, illuminating bare wooden beams, hanging insulation, and floorboards covered in a thick layer of dust. And in the far corner, barely visible, I saw something that made my breath catch. A bed. Not a mattress on the floor. A full bed, metal frame, headboard, blankets and pillow. And next to it, a small wooden table. On the table, a lamp, a glass of water, and a notebook. I pulled myself up into the attic. The floorboards creaked under my weight, and I moved slowly, keeping low to avoid hitting my head on the beams. I crawled towards the bed, my phone torch sweeping left and right, illuminating the space around me. The bed was made, neatly, hospital corners, the blankets tucked in tight. But everything was covered in dust, thick, undisturbed. No one had slept here in years, maybe decades. I reached for the notebook on the table, leather-bound, old. The pages were yellowed and brittle at the edges. I opened it. The first page was dated 14th of March 1985, and underneath, in the same shaky handwriting as the rules, it said, "My name is Michael Carrick. I live in 43B Cowgate. This is my record, in case I forget." I sat cross-legged on the dusty floor of the attic and read the entire journal by the light of my phone. It took over an hour, and by the time I finished, I understood everything. Michael Carrick and his younger brother Alistair inherited 43 Cowgate from their father in 1984. Michael lived on the third floor, 43B. Alistair lived on the ground floor and managed the building. They were close. The journal made that clear. Michael talked about Sunday dinners, walks along the Water of Leith, pints at the pub on the corner. But in early 1985, something started happening to Michael. Memory lapses, confusion, lost time. He would wake up in places he didn't remember going to, find objects moved that he didn't remember touching. The first entry that mentioned it was dated 6th of April 1985. "I woke up in the hallway this morning. No memory of getting out of bed. No memory of walking there. Alistair says I've been acting strange. Says I've asked him the same question 3 times yesterday. I don't remember that." The entries became more frequent after that, more frantic. 22nd of April 1985. "Lost 6 hours today. Don't know where I was. Don't know what I did. Alistair found me standing by the front door at 3 a.m. I was wearing my coat, trying to leave, but I don't remember why." 7th of May 1985. "I'm splitting. That's the only way I can describe it. There are 2 of me now, the one who forgets and the one who remembers. I can feel him. He's awake when I'm asleep. He moves things. He writes things. He lives in the spaces I don't." 19th of May 1985. "I found something in the attic today. I don't remember going up there, but I must have. There's a bed, a table, a lamp. I built it. I know I did. But I don't remember doing it. The other me, the one who remembers, he built it. He lives up there now." 2nd of June 1985. "I'm losing more time. Whole days now. Alistair says I'm scaring him. Says I don't recognise him sometimes. Says I called him by the wrong name. But I don't remember that. I only remember the gaps, the empty spaces where time should be." 14th of June 1985. "I found a list on my desk this morning. 7 rules, written in my handwriting, but I don't remember writing them. I think the other me wrote them, the one who remembers. He's trying to protect me, trying to keep me safe from myself." The entries became shorter after that, harder to read, like Michael was struggling to hold the pen. 21st of June 1985. "I don't know how much longer I can do this. The other me is getting stronger. He's awake more than I am now. Alistair says I need to see a doctor, but I can't leave. If I leave the flat, I won't come back. I know that. The other me knows that, so I'm staying. I'm staying up here, in the attic, where it's safe, where I can't hurt anyone." That was the last entry, 21st of June 1985, 40 years ago. I closed the journal and sat there in the dark, my phone torch casting long shadows across the attic, and I finally understood. Michael Carrick had been living in this flat, in this attic, for 40 years, split between 2 versions of himself, the one who forgot and the one who remembered. the one who lived downstairs and the one who lived up here. And the rules weren't meant to protect me, they were meant to protect him. To keep the two halves of Michael Carrick from colliding. When I climbed down from the attic, Alistair Carrick was standing in the hallway. I almost screamed. "You opened it," he said quietly. I nodded, too shocked to speak. "Did you read the journal?" "Yeah." He looked different than he had a month ago. Thinner, older, like something had been eaten away at him from the inside. "How long have you known?" I managed to ask. "Since the beginning," Alistair said. 1985. I watched it happen, watched him split, watched him disappear into the attic, and I couldn't stop it. "Why didn't you get help? Why didn't you call someone?" "I tried," Alistair said, and his voice cracked. "I tried everything. Doctors, specialists, they said it was early onset dementia, said there was nothing they could do. But I know it wasn't that. I know it was something else, something wrong." He reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. "I'm dying," he said. "Cancer, 6 months, maybe less, and when I'm gone, there's no one left who knows, no one who remembers." He held out an envelope to me. "This is a deed to the building, and a letter, explaining everything, for the council." I stared at him. "Why me?" "Because you broke Rule 3, Alistair said. "You're still here." He turned to leave, then stopped in the doorway. "The rules keep him stable," he said without looking back. "As long as someone follows them, the two parts of him stay separate. But if you don't..." He didn't finish. He didn't have to. That was 4 weeks ago. Alistair Carrick died 2 weeks later. I went to his funeral. I was the only one there. I still live at 43B Cowgate. I follow the rules. Every night I hear the footsteps above me, the dragging, the pacing, and sometimes, maybe once a week, I see him, the man in the corner, Michael Carrick. I don't close my eyes anymore when I see him. I look at him, and he looks back, and just for a moment, just a split second, I see something in his face, recognition, like he's trying to remember who he was. I don't know how much longer the rules will hold. I don't know how much longer Michael has, but I'll keep following them, because someone has to. If you ever see a listing for a flat in Edinburgh for less than $500 a month, don't take it. And if you find a list of rules taped to the door, follow them, all of them, because the person who wrote them is still there, still waiting, still trying to remember.